Kevin McCarthy was removed from his speakership. Sean Hannity is talking about Donald Trump running for the speakership. Now, all Trump would need is like a few Republicans, basically every Republican. He'd need every Republican to vote him in. So that's going to be an interesting one. This is Gene Bailey on screen. If you're unfamiliar, he's a far-right extremist, a Trump supporter to the core. And he's about to give us a rundown of everything that happened with the speaker vote and everything else. Generally speaking, I think I can trust his news reporting will have a far-right bias. So go into that with that information. All right, let's listen to Gene Bailey, see what he has to say about this situation. Again, remember, he is a Trump supporter to the core. That is his main mission. He believes Trump is God. Basically, he believes he's a messiah, and he's going to spark Armageddon once he gets into political power again. Let's listen to this, and while we do, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild 2, just kind of going around doing whatever. So,
good evening, everybody. I'm Gene Bailey, and you are watching Flashpoint. We're glad you're with us tonight. Tonight's one of those programs you need to go share it. A lot of stuff happening in the news today. Go share this on all your social media.
I'd say so.
Help get the word out. Flashpoint is about to talk about the events of the day, leading primarily with what happened with Speaker McCarthy. For that,
I can't even believe they got a video out so quickly on this subject. Like, they never cover. I think they put one out specially for this event. Yeah, I think they're like a day early or something, but this is such a massive shakeup for Trump world. And of course, you know, they are Trump world. They follow Trump world like a hawk, so it's a big deal.
Events of the day, leading primarily with what happened with Speaker McCarthy. For that, let's go to Mike Garofalo with the news.
I don't know why they always have this dude, quote unquote, reporting the news. It's all biased to shit, of course. There's no like objectivity to be found anywhere on this show at all.
Gene, we have breaking news from the House floor. By a 216 to 210 count, members voted this afternoon.
Yeah, there was 6 vote difference.
To vacate the Speaker's office, meaning Kevin McCarthy is no longer Speaker of the House. It's the first time this has ever happened in U.S. history. The vote took place after Florida's Matt Gaetz' move on Monday evening to follow through on his threat to remove Speaker McCarthy after this past weekend's short-term budget deal.
Give a little bit of context to what was happening politically leading up to this. There was a vote on increasing the debt limit. Now, this is a standard thing that we do as a government. Republicans are the only ones that ever use this as a political tool. Democrats have always negotiated, even when they weren't in power. And I don't care, okay? This is on Republicans now. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video. Matt Gaetz was angry with Kevin McCarthy for making a deal to extend the debt limit vote by 45 days or something. That's the bottom line here. He extended it by like a month and a half, and that really pissed off Matt Gaetz, because he believed that he was like negotiating with the other side or negotiating with whoever, whatever. Negotiating with terrorists, if you will, being Democrats, of course, that were being negotiated with. In Matt Gaetz' mind, anyways. And that got to him so much that he removed Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. I think he's really just soaking up the attention. That's really what this is all about. And that's fine with me, as long as he's taking the attention. It means that this isn't being blamed on Democrats, who absolutely are not to blame for this situation. So anyway, let's hear what Matt Gaetz had to say.
McCarthy, after this past weekend's short-term budget deal.
I rise to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant. Resolved that the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared to be vacant.
McCarthy brought Florida GOP Congressman Matt Gaetz.
You know, just for a little context on this, a little more context, it's hilarious that Republicans refused to allow Matt Gaetz to use the microphone, like their podium or whatever. So he had to use the one at the Democrats' side. I think that's hilarious. most Republicans are really pissed off at Matt Gaetz for doing this. They are really unhappy with him right now. So we'll see how this goes for Matt Gaetz.
To be vacant. Resolved that the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared to be vacant.
McCarthy brought Florida GOP Congressman Matt Gaetz' motion to the floor today. Representative Tom Cole immediately moved to table that, but the motion failed with 11 Republicans voting with every Democrat present to move forward with the vote to remove the Speaker. The House debated for 1 hour. Here are some of the highlights.
We are here to eulogize the era of continuing resolution. We will not do it. We will not pass it. These bills can go. The spending may rise and fall as the years pass. But the notion that we're going to lump in the Department of Education and the Department of Labor with...
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. The negotiations that were happening were absolutely absurd. They weren't even negotiations. They were Republican extremists like Matt Gaetz telling Democrats basically, we're not going to raise the debt limit. If you want us to raise the debt limit, then you have to basically agree to abolish the Department of Education and this and that and whatever else. You have to abolish basically everything. That's pretty much what the agreement was. And if you don't abolish these government agencies, the government doesn't get funded. So McCarthy tried to move to the middle and negotiated with Democrats to come to a deal that didn't include Ukraine aid originally. Basically, they cut Ukraine aid out of the deal, which was going to come later. Ukraine would be aided, probably. It was just going to take a little bit of time. And now Matt Gaetz is... McCarthy then got, what's the word I'm looking for? He got rebuked, maybe? Is that the word? Yeah, maybe the word is rebuked. He got rebuked for negotiating with Democrats at all, to any degree. And so he backed off. We'll just extend it for 45 days. That was his, his negotiation, his agreement. So anyways, that's what was happening up to this point.
Pass, but the notion that we're going to lump in the Department of Education and the Department of Labor with our military and our troops and our Border Patrol is fundamentally unserious and I would suggest chaotic.
That's what he was talking about there. The fact that we'd lump in the Department of Education, blah, blah, blah. Matt Gaetz is trying to defund the Department of Education. He's trying to basically erase it from existence. Seriously. The government organization that makes sure that kids are keeping up with a curriculum that's being followed and not being preached to. We don't have pastors in every teacher role or whatever. Only in a few of them. That's the thing that Matt Gaetz wanted to abolish. So that should give you a little context for what he's saying here.
Our Border Patrol is fundamentally unserious and I would suggest chaotic. We cannot do that. It was only because we forced that to happen. And by the way, if we continue with Speaker McCarthy, the appropriations process will go right back to what he wanted it to go back to. Just a sideshow, just a puppet show.
If this motion carries, the House will be paralyzed. We can expect week after week of fruitless ballots while no other business can be conducted. The Democrats will revel in Republican dysfunction, and the public will rightly be repulsed.
I believe, the public will be repulsed. I am repulsed by this. I personally believe that this was part of the plan, that Donald Trump wanted Matt Gaetz to do this, even though Trump came out publicly, like shortly after McCarthy lost his spot, and said, "This is terrible. You're plunging the country into chaos. I don't believe that this should be happening right now." And now this morning, we have reports that Donald Trump is willing to be Speaker of the House to save the Republican Party. It's absurd. The whole thing is absurd. And I'm sorry, I just don't believe any of this is real. I believe that this whole thing was orchestrated and planned out from the start, truthfully.
No living human has taken the vote we're about to take. It deserves that we pause, we reflect, that we consider deeply the ramification of our actions.
It is lovely to hear from the principal architect of Mr. McCarthy's debt limit deal, but here's the reality. The only Republicans in America who believe that the debt limit deal was conservative are in this chamber right now. Because all over America, Republicans think that when you negotiated that debt limit deal, they took your lunch money.
Okay, I don't think that's true at all. Matt Gaetz represents a total of maybe 20 people, and only 8 of those people voted with him. He could only get 8 people to side with him on this. Only 8 people moved over to vote Kevin McCarthy out, and those 8 people plunged the U.S. into absolute chaos for a time by doing that. This is just a chaotic, stupid mess, truthfully. I don't know what he's thinking, if not Donald Trump wanted me to do this, so I'm going to do it. What else could the thought process be? I don't know. The other 200 and whatever Republicans didn't want this to happen ostensibly. I don't know. I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Once again, the final vote to vacate the speakership was 216 to 210, rather, with Kevin McCarthy being the first speaker in history to ever be removed.
Yeah, it was 8 Republicans moved over, and the reason that it was only 6 people is because some people were not physically there. They couldn't vote present. They just weren't there because one of them, I think their husband died in a plane crash the other day or something. And one of them is dealing, this is 500 people you're dealing with. This is a lot of people, and they're all dealing with various things at any given moment. So if a vote is important, they'll show up for it. But this is kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing that nobody really saw coming, and that's why we're seeing some Republicans, not in chambers at the moment.
7 members were absent from the vote. Gene, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. So
There you go. 7 members were absent from the vote, and it passed by a margin of 6 members total.
who's in charge now, the House, since the Speaker's been ousted?
Representative Patrick McHenry of North Carolina, who happens to be a McCarthy ally. He is now the interim Speaker, Gene.
Yeah, and as the interim Speaker, he has no power whatsoever, pretty much. He's just there to make sure that regular business is done. He can't run a Biden impeachment inquiry. He can't form committee, or maybe he can form committees, but everything is all very, very basic.
Thanks, Mike, for that. Okay, those of you watching at home, you're probably wondering, how did this happen? Why did it happen? You got a real quick review there from Mike. Let me bring in my panel tonight.
The fascinating thing about this is I personally believe Donald Trump was behind this whole thing. Now, Trump did come out on Truth Central or whatever it is, his social media network, and say this is bad, you shouldn't have done it. I really think that he put all of this in motion so he could be Speaker, truthfully.
From Omaha, Nebraska, Pastor Hank Kuhneman. Easley, South Carolina, Pastor Mark Burns. From somewhere in New York City, a good friend Eric Metaxas. And, of course, Rick Green in a bunker somewhere in South Texas.
Okay, so these 4 people, they all believe that Donald Trump is the Messiah. All 4 of these people. 3 of these 4 people are pastors, Trump pastors, that believe that he's going to bring on the end of the world or whatever. Really, I'm not joking or being facetious or anything. I'm dead serious with this. Hank Kuhneman is a hardcore Trump pastor. Metaxas top right is a little bit closer to the center on the Trump issue specifically, far right on everything else, but he still believes it, and so does Mark Burns. Mark Burns believes anything you tell him to. He strikes me as just a dummy. I mean, I'm not saying this to be insulting, honestly. He kind of strikes me as a dummy, truthfully.
All right, welcome, gentlemen, to tonight's program. Rick, I'll start with you with this. You see what we're seeing here. This has not happened since 1910 with Joseph Cannon, and it didn't pass then. We haven't had this. What does this mean for Americans, and what does it mean for conservative Christians when they're watching what's happening?
So it's going to be interesting to see what these people think about it. Somebody says, I understand 100 years ago that, people not being able to vote or whatever, but we can't, vote abroad now. The answer to that question, I believe, is it is possible to vote by proxy in the House, I think, but people have to like organize that and plan for it, basically. In this type of situation, no, from my understanding.
Well, Gene, first of all, we've all got good friends on both sides of this. Republicans are split on this, and it's all about, tactics. What's the best way to move forward? I think the American people...
Boy, what a middle-of-the-road thing to say. What a thing to say to keep anybody from being upset with you.
Certainly the people I talk to, we are sick and tired of the Band-Aids and the continuing resolutions and now $33 trillion in debt. I think Chip Roy said it better than anyone when he said no security, no funding. They should just stick.
Again, no security, no funding. What the hell does that mean? This is nothing more than a ridiculous political football right now.
Stick with that line and say we will not fund the government. We will not pass any resolutions until we secure the border. That is the crisis on everybody's minds right now.
No, it's not. Secure the border? As if the border is like open and there's no border security whatsoever. It's just absurd, dude. Nobody gives a shit about this except like far-right extremists. Do you know how valuable it is to have immigrants come into your country? It's so ridiculously valuable. It's an advantage the U.S. has that other countries don't. China is not getting immigrants trying to come in regularly. Japan does not bring immigrants in regularly like the United States does. And it's honestly an embarrassment that people like this are complaining about immigrants coming in when it's so fiscally valuable. It makes an economy grow exponentially to have more people being a part of it, really. So what reason do they have for not wanting immigrants to come in? There's only one I can think of. And he's complaining about the border being open, quote unquote. It's not.
Resolutions until we secure the border. That is the crisis on everybody's minds right now. We know at 10,000 a day, our nation is being destroyed right now. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
You think immigration is the straw that broke the camel's back, quote unquote? What a ridiculous thing to say. This dude is absolutely absurd on every level. Why is it that he thinks that the country is destroyed when more immigrants come in? I mean, I've talked about this issue enough. It's so valuable to have immigrants come into the United States, to any country.
That's what finally gave the impetus for this. It is unprecedented. I don't know what's going to happen at this point because of them actually passing this. Obviously, the Democrats, wanted to seize the opportunity to embarrass the Republicans, embarrass McCarthy, whatever.
Well, he's trying to blame it on the Democrats, huh? Don't look at them. It was Matt Gaetz. He's the one parading around all morning, talking about, or all morning, all day, like the entire time, through this entire vote, talking about how he had McCarthy removed for not following his instructions and stuff like that. It's absurd.
I don't think it's an embarrassment. I think it's finally people are going to say, you know what? Wait, maybe we can change things in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so I guess these people are in favor of it, interestingly. Like I said, I think Trump orchestrated the whole thing, so maybe they got their line from Trump. Maybe they asked some Trump aide what their position should be. That wouldn't surprise me at all if Trump was instructing the media outlets that follow him like a god. I wouldn't be surprised if his little media people were instructing them what to say at all.
Maybe they will do something different. It's no more business as usual, and that's what's been accomplished here. Where it's going to go from here, I don't know. But I am thrilled to see a different ball game being played at this point.
All right, let me go.
You're thrilled to see a different ball game being played, huh? You're thrilled to see the government being plunged into absolute chaos, is what he's saying? That's absurd.
Pastor Mark Burns. Pastor Mark, you heard this. You connected obviously with the Trump campaign over the years. What's your take on what happened today?
Well, it's a historic, monumental occasion.
Mark Burns, I think he was on a panel, or I don't know. Panel isn't the right word. He was on a group or a committee, I guess, that talked to Donald Trump about what evangelicals want from him, what will keep them voting for him. and what will convince them that he is the Messiah effectively. So Mark Burns contributed to that whole belief system, basically, and helped Trump stay in line with it.
What's your take on what happened today?
Well, it's a historic, monumental occasion. I mean, first of all, let's just say that this isn't chaos like some might say. This
Yes, it is. It is chaos.
is simply our government being able to do what our government is able to do, to disagree at the highest level of government while still maintaining some governance to achieve the goals that we have. I mean, again, I've been speaking.
Wait, I'm sorry. What? Did he say this is just the government doing what the government does, disagreeing while maintaining governance or whatever? What the hell is this dude talking about? This means nothing. This is like the other day when I was listening to Ben Shapiro talk about suicide rates, and he said something like the rates are lower in other countries, in developing countries, and that points to this being a privilege of the upper class in terms of financial or something like that. God, I don't remember what it was he said now, but it was absolutely absurd. That's what I'm listening to right now. God, I need to put that on a soundboard. You know what? I need to find that now. I'm thinking about it. Hold on. Jackie Eubanks. There.
So, how do you say that some...
Here it is. Hang on. Let me find it. 1 second.
For example, in the black community, where...
Wow, I jumped almost exactly to where it is.
Okay, in the black community has significantly lower suicide rates than in the white community. In fact, in third world countries, the suicide rate is significantly lower than in first world countries. Suicide actually seems to be a privilege of the upper classes, if you actually look at it from a financial perspective. So the idea that suicide...
I'm sorry. God, I don't understand what the hell he's talking about. If you look at it from a financial perspective, a privilege of the upper class? What? Oh, dude, I need that on a soundboard. I need it on a soundboard. Just that one line right there.
Privilege of the upper classes. Suicide rate is significantly lower than in first world countries.
Right here.
Suicide actually seems to be a privilege of the upper classes, if you actually look at it from a financial perspective.
That's embarrassing and painful, dude. Why is this marked as his most popular video? Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting off track. All right, let's keep listening to these nutcases.
Right now, sitting in the chair to several high-ranking Trump campaign officials. The president right now is in a meeting discussing this very thing. I was hoping to get an exclusive, to get him to come on or to give us a statement, and it still may happen while I'm here on the air. But the point is, I believe this is a major move for the MAGA movement in America.
I believe that Donald Trump orchestrated it, truthfully. I really do. And I think that he didn't explain to his media people how to feel. He just said, be happy about it. It could be useful to me. That's the thing about Donald Trump. Anytime anything happens that's chaotic, Donald Trump finds a way to take advantage of the situation.
This is allowing us to stand behind the Make America Great Again agenda. Matt Gaetz done a good job in saying that I'm tired of the lobbyists who are sold out to the lobbyists. He's willing to take the $5, $10, $20 little cash fundraisers from the everyday Americans to fund his campaign agenda. So this.
But what is he even talking about now? I am so lost. I have no clue what he's going on about. What? Yes, lobbying is bad. Who are we even talking about?
Fundraisers from the everyday Americans to fund his campaign agenda. So this is a wake-up call for every politician in America. Beware, because if they could do this to Kevin McCarthy, who is millions of Americans believe have sold out the Republican caucus, the same thing can happen to you.
Huh, interesting. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. That's a line that Donald Trump says constantly. When Donald Trump says it, it's like, oh, you should be scared. If I can be indicted for a crime, you can be indicted for a crime. Yeah, that's true. You can be indicted for a crime. Absolutely. But now they're using it as a bludgeon. They're trying to threaten people. They're telling them, if Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, can be removed from office, so can you. You better fall in line behind Donald Trump, basically.
Let me bring in Eric Metaxas. Eric,
Just a Voice says Matt Gaetz doesn't take PAC money. Oh, really? Okay. That's good. Good for him. Glad to hear it.
Let me bring in Eric Metaxas. Eric, you hear this? What does it say to you? Let me get your...
I'm going to be fascinated to hear what Hank Kunneman's take is on this, being the Trump pastor that he is. I don't believe that any of them are as hardcore Trump pastors as Kunneman is.
Take on it.
I think it's good news. I think it's good news for America. I think people like Kevin McCarthy need to understand it's over. We are not going to put up with the kinds of compromises that folks like him have been making with Democrats. We are...
Literally, the compromise that he made, it wasn't even a compromise. It was, are we going to keep the government functioning? Is your portfolio going to fail? Is the government going to plunge into economic peril, the likes of which we have never seen? That's really what was on the table. And the answer is, apparently, yes. It is going to plunge into economic peril, the likes of which we've never seen. I guess that's what they want. McCarthy did the most basic negotiations. The kind of stuff that, I don't understand how anybody could be upset with with the deal McCarthy came to. It got Republicans what they wanted. Why are they so upset over this?
Folks like him have been making with Democrats. We are in a hellish position in this nation because of that kind of misleadership. And so this is a clear sign that most Americans have had it. And it's kind of funny thing.
It's a clear sign most Americans have had it? What the hell are you talking about? It was 8 people that that wanted this vote to go through. 8 people. This isn't a clear sign of anything, that any mandate of any sort. No. It's completely made up. It blows me away that he can say that with a straight face. This is a sign that the vast majority of people in the country want this to happen. No, it's not.
When you hear some Republicans talk about, oh, this is going to embarrass Republicans.
Oh, yes, it definitely has, terribly.
Republicans deserve to be embarrassed.
That's right.
The Republicans that don't understand where we are as a nation, they are at odds with the American people, and they are enabling the left Democrats to destroy this country. And so they need to understand they deserve.
How are Republicans allowing the left Democrats to destroy the country? I just want a little explanation.
Deserve to be embarrassed. They don't even deserve to be in office if they are not willing to lead. And I have to say, congratulations to Matt Gaetz. I hope he is the next governor of Florida.
When did this come out? This was October 3rd. Oh, by the way, yeah, Matt Gaetz is running for governor of Florida. I don't know if you guys picked up on that little thing he just said there. That's going to be an interesting one right there. Matt Gaetz is about as far-right extremist as it gets, in my opinion. So this came out the day that it happened, You cannot convince me that these people didn't talk to Trump about what he wanted them to do, about his interests. They absolutely did. I'm sure, well, not Trump personally maybe, but I'm sure they talked to Trump's media team or whatever about what Trump wanted them to say. I'm sure of it.
To Matt Gaetz, I hope he is the next governor of Florida when DeSantis' term is up, because we need people to say, we've had enough. We cannot go any farther. And frankly, McCarthy also did not release all of the J6 footage.
Yes, he did. I'm pretty sure he did. What are you talking about?
Shame on him for not understanding that is one of the priorities in a lawless nation where people are jailed for their political beliefs. You need to take that seriously. Somebody got to him. I don't know who it was, and he didn't seem to take that seriously.
What the hell is this dude talking about? This is the line that Trump wanted people to tell everybody. When you hear these people talking about this, be aware that, in my opinion, they got in contact with Donald Trump and his, I don't know, his guys or whatever. They got in contact with Trump's guys, and they told them what they wanted them to say about this. I'm I'm convinced of it. You can't convince me otherwise. I'm very confident that Trump is feeding extremists information about what he wants them to say.
It's true. That's a whole nother rabbit trail.
A whole nother.
It's true. That's a whole nother rabbit trail we could go down. Let me go to Pastor Hank Kunneman. Pastor Hank, I mean, we see this. This is really government at work, like what Eric Metaxas has said and Rick Green. We're seeing things operate the way they should have. So
no, you're seeing government fall apart in Republicans' hands. So I guess these guys are trying to give an image of stability. Is that what's happening right now? It seems like they're trying to make it appear as though Republicans are doing the right thing and that this is a completely well thought out and intelligent decision that was made.
Whether we like it or not, this is our government at work.
Well, we shouldn't really be surprised by what took place because if you remember, Pastor Gene, and those that are watching, is they had more rounds to vote this guy in than what's even in boxing. And so...
Yeah, they voted like 15 times to get him into office. That's true, sure. McCarthy, they didn't want McCarthy in as speaker. The far-right extremists in the party, like Matt Gaetz, Mike Biggs, and, the Freedom Caucus, basically. I can't believe they got Marjorie Taylor Greene on board. They got her to agree to have McCarthy in. She doesn't seem to be part of the Freedom Caucus in the same way that the others are. I don't know. It's just really, really weird.
You knew that something was probably going to be coming, but here's the problem. We want the truth, the American people, about our border, about why all of this money is going to fund this, quote, Ukrainian war. And we want those that are elected officials.
That's Putin propaganda right there. That is the result of Vladimir Putin encouraging or feeding conspiracy theories through the various media arms that he's used. I believe that Putin created QAnon originally and uses it as his media arm to spread his conspiracies personally. And that one's, the anti-Ukraine stuff is coming through QAnon, largely.
Officials that put America first. And it's obvious that it wasn't going that direction. And I think it's a good sign for our country that there are those that are rising up saying enough is enough. Now, the part that I'm not settled in my spirit about is that the Republican Party, they need to also take this same kind of fight, this same kind of determination towards the radical left agenda that is destroying this country.
So he's upset that, well, he's not upset. It seems like he agrees with this completely, but he wants Republicans to take the fight to Democrats and not just other Republicans, apparently. Okay.
They would just unite and do that and fight for the children, fight for our freedoms.
Wait, fight for the children? What?
Fight for the truth of 2020. And how about this? Rally around the candidate who is leading incredibly in the primary. Lastly, God prophesied that these things would begin to happen. And I'm going to say it very quickly. He said on December 31st, 2020.
Okay, just a quick reminder here, if you don't know Hank Kunneman, what he means when he says God prophesied whatever, blah, 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 what he means is Hank Kunneman prophesied, blah, blah, blah. Hank believes that Hank gets word from God about what God wants, and he's handing that down from on high. Just absurd on every level.
That these things would begin to happen. And I'm going to say it very quickly. He said on December 31st, 2022, watch the House of Representatives. It would become the House of Cards. He said on June 6th of 2021 that those that are in the House that are a stench in front of God's sight would be removed and new faces would arise. And
okay, so the two quote-unquote prophecies that Hank Kunneman supposedly prophesied, thus proving that he really is a prophet of God. The House of Representatives is going to be a train wreck. And the people that fight against God will lose, basically. That's what he said, pretty much. Those were his two prophecies. Wow, this dude has the line to God. You got to admit it. He's got it. He has that connection. He knows how to talk to God, apparently. He must. How else could he have been so absolutely on the nose and exact with what he was saying? Not possible otherwise, right? Because the House of Representatives is not a train wreck any other time, ever. I've never in my life, 30-something years, ever seen the House of Representatives be a complete mess. I've never seen it before. First time ever. That proves it. This guy's a prophet, right? Think about how absolutely absurd it is what this guy is saying.
Of God's sight.
Oh, those weren't the only two either. He's got a third, I believe. So the House of Representatives will be a mess. And what was the other? The people that God doesn't like will be removed from power.
Would be removed and new faces would arise. And lastly, he said on July 12, 2021, that we would come into historical moments concerning the Republican Party, even the Democratic Party, and God would be known as the party crasher. And I don't think God is done. We are in for a reset and
Okay, so big things are going to happen in the Republican and the Democratic parties, and God will be known as the party crasher. I'm not seeing that one, Hank. I'm sorry. I give it to you on the others. I can't give it to you on this one.
a reorder that is by the hand of God himself.
I believe you're absolutely right there, Pastor Hank.
Then you're a fool.
Green again. All right, so Rick, I got NBC. This is their list of who they think are on the maybes.
Yeah, so again, this morning, Donald Trump came out and announced that he was willing to be Speaker of the House to save the Republican Party, basically. That's what he said. So we'll see what happens. I'm pretty confident that this whole thing was orchestrated by him, and maybe they didn't have this information about that yet. That's very possible. Or maybe this wasn't orchestrated by Trump at all. That's just a little pet conspiracy theory of mine. And Donald Trump is just finding a way to use this situation to his advantage, use this chaos to his advantage. That's very possible, too.
Majority Leader Steve Scalise from Louisiana. Majority Whip Tom Emmer from Minnesota. Representative Garrett Graves, Louisiana. House GOP Conference Chair, New York, Elise Stefanik. Jim Jordan and Tom.
Yeah, Jim Jordan threw his name into the ring for House Speaker. Apparently, that is about as disturbing as it gets. Jim Jordan is a Trump sycophant to a degree that I can't even quantify for you. It's insane. This dude doesn't just bow down to Trump. He prostrates himself onto the floor entirely. It's crazy.
York, Elise Stefanik. Jim Jordan, and
he also protects pedophiles in schools that are taking advantage of children when he's fully aware that this is happening, allegedly.
And Tom Cole from Oklahoma. Did any of those ring true to you, or do you have any idea of where this might go?
Well, only one of those sounds like a name that can truly bring reform in the House, and that'd be Jim Jordan. I think most conservatives would have enough confidence in him. I'm not sure that's the best move because we need him right now on the investigation of Biden and the impeachment.
Oh, give me a break, dude.
And there's nobody better for that role than Jim Jordan. But we do need somebody that will actually make it a whole new ball game for everybody. And to what Eric said, I wish I could dress as good as Eric, look as good, sound as good, prop up my books as good as he does. He's so good at this.
Okay, the word good did not fit in all those sentences, but all right.
What Eric said, I don't care if the Republicans are embarrassed. He's 100% right on that. They need to be embarrassed. And here's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, but it'll shut down the government. And what if the government doesn't fund? They need to be shut down.
Okay, I don't think this guy fully understands what's going to happen if the government is shut down. It would wreak absolute havoc on everything. This guy apparently doesn't have any clue how bad it would get if they allowed this to take place. Or he doesn't care, or I don't know. Something.
I mean, if they can't secure our border, then what good are they in the first? I mean, they need to be. They're doing 17,000 things that are unconstitutional anyway.
Who is they? Are you talking about like the government? The government is doing all this stuff? What is he talking about right now? I don't understand, first of all. And second, the border is secure. Okay, we don't have an open border. Come back to reality with the rest of us, Rick.
Things shouldn't be getting done. So I think this is a pivotal, wonderful moment. And to what Hank said, I think it is. I mean, just listen to those prophecies. This is a time for shaking, and we're shaking up the House right now. That is a good thing. This is going to give a lot of conservative activists out there, patriots that have been wondering, can things ever really change? Right. Are we ever going to get anything different? This is going to give them a lot of hope to know, yes, we can't. That doesn't mean everything's solved. We're probably going to get a McCarthy-like person, but it shows just like...
So I guess they believe they're going to get another person that they believe to be more moderate. Well, I'm sorry, McCarthy's not moderate. These people like Rick Green and everybody, they keep trying to push the idea that McCarthy's moderate. He's not. He's a nutcase just like the right. Well, actually, you know what? I don't even believe McCarthy is a nutcase, but he will do anything for the nutcase contingent among the Republicans. He'll do anything for the Freedom Caucus. Anything that they say. They want it to burn so they can start a new theocracy without elections or the Constitution. Project 2025. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think you're right on that point. I haven't covered Project 2025 yet, but I really should. I should have already. And I have this thing pulled up where I want to talk about it. I just haven't gotten around to it, you know?
They did back in January, that when they stand firm, they can get the concessions that they need. And now what they've proven is, if you don't follow through on those concessions, we will drop the hammer. So I'm hoping that this gives even more momentum to that small group of really good, strong conservative.
Okay, that small group, they're not really good, strong conservatives. They're nutcases. He's talking about the Freedom Caucus. Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they are all technically considered part of the Freedom Caucus. And they love Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of the others. They love those people, although I think she's separated herself from the Freedom Caucus technically to be in the Trump caucus, basically.
Patriots in the House to give us even more victories in the coming months.
Well, let's talk about what happens next. Now, there's an interim speaker, but nothing can really happen until we get a speaker elected. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, nothing can happen, i.e. no Biden impeachment inquiries, no whatever. None of that shit that they want can happen until they get a speaker in. No funding of the government either.
No, there can be some operations in the House. I don't think they're now. I was a state legislator, not a member of Congress, so I don't know all of their rules. But
I didn't know that. He was a state legislator? For what state? Texas? Hold on. Let me look this up. I'm curious now. Rick Green of Texas? And he ran against Paul Green. Paul Green or Rick Green? Interesting. Yes, I believe that he was a... Wait a minute. Let's see. Rick Green. They don't have a picture of him, apparently. After graduation, Green practiced contract law. Ooh, contract law. That's interesting. He was then elected to the Texas legislature. Yeah, this is him. Rick Green's a former Texas state representative, so probably House member, not senator. National speaker, author, radio host, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So Texas state House member is what he was, I believe. Rick Green, Texas state rep. So he was a legislator from 99 to 2003, I believe, is what it was. And he actually came really close to continuing his position. Fascinating. I had no clue. Okay. Apparently he's a legislator.
I don't think they're now. I was a state legislator, not a member of Congress, so I don't know all of their rules. But I think they can still move forward with some things. But it would be order number one. I mean, they need to get that done. I don't see why that takes more than 24 hours. They ought to have a new speaker chosen within the next 24 hours.
That's not going to happen. I mean, it hasn't happened. It's already been like long past that. They're not going to pick a new speaker and successfully get them in to office. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. Apparently, Rick Green, I'm just looking through his Ballotpedia here. According to Ballotpedia, take it with a grain of salt, I'm not sure. Apparently, there was a libel lawsuit against his political detractors. He filed defamation cases. Roughly a year after his failed 2010 election run, Green sued a number of his political opponents and their supporters for libel. Green claimed they made untrue and defamatory statements about him during the campaign that resulted in him losing the election. Okay, the source on this is scotxblog.com. Be skeptical of everything here. I'm really not sure what's happening, if this is real or not. In March 2010, Rick Green surprised many by finishing first in a six-way race for the Republican nomination for an open Texas Supreme Court seat, forcing a runoff with Deborah Learman. In April 2010, Learman won the runoff and serves on the court today. Holy shit, this dude was almost a Supreme Court, well, not Supreme Court, but Texas Supreme Court, a state Supreme Court judge or justice. That's disturbing, dude. Last week, roughly a year after the April 2010 runoff, Rick Green filed a libel suit against several political detractors, including former Chief Justice Phillips and the Texas Association of Realtors, as well as the Texas Tribune and one of its reporters. Wow, okay. I guess it failed. I'm really curious now. This is fascinating. Wait, here's a 2010 article. Ever since his narrow March 2nd win set off a collective grumble from some legal establishment, there's been a movement afoot to shore up support for his runoff opponent. Now the fruits of those efforts have ripened. Can Rick Green be stopped? This is the Texas Tribune's article on him that I guess earned them the libel suit, I'm assuming. Again, take it with a grain of salt. That's what it seems like to me. That's fascinating. Today, 5 former state Supreme Court justices, Tom Phillips, Craig Enoch, Deborah Hankinson, Barbara Culver, and Alberto Gonzalez, will throw their weight behind Learman in her bid for the nomination. Okay, so he came out on top of a 6-way race, basically, for Supreme Court Justice of Texas, and he lost, and all 5 of the other people basically got behind one other person, and that basically lost him the seat. And he was so upset over that he blamed them for lying about him or some other thing. That's what it seems like to me. Fascinating. I had no idea about Rick Green. Okay. More to come in the future. I will give you guys more information as I gain it.
Now, I was a state legislator, not a member of Congress, so I don't know all of their rules, but I think they can still move forward with some things. But it would be order number 1. I mean, they need to get that done. I don't see why that takes more than 24 hours. They ought to have a new...
Again, that's already failed. It's already been longer than that. So, yeah. Oh. Why is it... Oh, it's muted.
It takes more than 24 hours. They ought to have a new speaker chosen within the next 24 hours.
And is it correct that it does not have to come from within the House?
Now, that is absolutely accurate. Yeah, the Constitution does not require that.
They're all laughing because they know who they're thinking about, Donald Trump. They know that Trump might be the next one in line. That is so disturbing. It's ridiculous. I don't even know what to do with that. It's so disturbing. Oh, please don't make Freedom Caucasians. That's funny. Please don't make Donald Trump the next Speaker of the House. Oh my God, that'd be a mess.
There's always been the rumors about why not make it Donald Trump and let's have a lot of fun. You really want to shake things up and have the media literally have heads explode on live television. I think that would actually be fun. So yeah, let's make it somebody like Trump.
Yeah. Now I want to remind everybody watching. You saw what happened in January. We were here talking about, and everybody was throwing a rod.
Jesus, dude, this is so disturbing. Please don't make it Donald Trump. Oh, my God.
In their engines because they were like, oh, my God, this is horrible. We can't vote. We can't get anybody elected after 5 votes. I don't know how many votes it was.
Dude, it was like 14 originally to get McCarthy in. Yeah, 15. It took 15 ballots.
McCarthy was elected. Now, that was the government at work. We said it then. This is government at work. This is a great thing about our founding fathers, the documents that we operate by. This is why we need to preserve America the way it is, because these are the things that are set in place to make sure we have the right people in the right place. It doesn't become a banana republic.
This is psychotic, dude. Seriously. Holy I'm sorry, man. This is insane. This makes sure it doesn't become a banana republic. I thought that they've been saying this entire time it is a banana republic. What the hell are you talking about right now? Jesus, dude. These people need help for real.
Place to make sure we have the right people in the right place. It doesn't become a banana republic, and I don't mean clothing stores. All right, let me go back to Eric Metaxas.
He had to add that little addendum because his viewers would actually think he's talking about the clothing stores. It means a rogue government that's taking control of things and overturning government on behalf of corporations and stuff. It's kind of funny that they're deriding banana republics now, right? Seems like that's the kind of thing these people would want.
Public, and I don't mean clothing stores. All right, let me go back to Eric Metaxas. Eric, you see this. Where do you think this is going to lead in the long run? Is this going to have a lasting effect somewhere?
It's hard. I would say yes, but I think here's the key. Anybody with a brain, anybody with eyes to see and ears to hear knows this country is on fire. We are in free fall.
Okay, fair enough. I suppose I can agree with him on that. I was confident I wasn't going to agree with the next words out of his mouth, but okay, sure.
We are at a level of chaos and dysfunction that we have never seen. People like Kevin McCarthy clearly don't get that. There are pastors all over this country in churches that do not get that. If you don't get that, you need to get that, because
if you don't get that, you need to get that. No, I think everybody's fully aware that this country's in free fall. He just thinks that you're the one that's causing it, basically. And he thinks that not funding the government, not raising the debt limit, would cast it into even further free fall. And he's correct on that point. It absolutely would throw it into an even faster free fall. Without a doubt. Oh my God, dude. It would be insane if the government was not funded. So I don't believe Republicans are willing to do it. I don't believe they're willing to throw everything away and completely destroy, the country and the country's economic system for ideology. I don't believe it. Some of them maybe, but not all of them. So time will tell what happens next. I don't think it's going to come to a free fall type of situation. We'll see. I think they're bluffing is my point. I believe that Republicans are bluffing about a lot of the things that they say, even the far right extremists, because they have political PACs. They have stock portfolios as well. Even people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and all of the extremists. I understand Matt Gaetz does not have a political PAC, but he has stock options, stock portfolios and stuff. He does.
This is not an opinion. We have a level of chaos. I mean, the open border, if there were nothing else to...
There is no open border. The border has been closed this entire time. Almost nothing has changed on border policy under Biden. It's almost exactly the same as it was under Trump, except we're not separating children from their parents anymore, and Biden's put a concerted effort into reuniting them. That's about it.
To talk about. That is a nightmare we have never seen ever.
It's bizarre to me that these people can talk about what a great job Greg Abbott is doing, putting, what was it, razor wire or something in the river so as to cut people to pieces if they came across it. It's bizarre to me that they can talk about how great a decision that was for Greg Abbott to make, and then talk about how the border is completely open and people just walking straight through it. Jesus, dude.
We have that happening. We have transgender lunacy. We have leftists lying, pulling fire alarms.
We have the transgender, okay? It's too much now. Too much. Absurd. These people are an embarrassment, truthfully. That little reference there to the fire alarm thing?
Lunacy. We have leftists lying, pulling fire alarms.
Leftists lying. I don't know what he's talking about, leftists lying or whatever. There was a budget vote that was about to take place. It was almost certainly going the way of Republicans because there are the right number of Republicans to pass a lot of things. When it gets to the Senate, anything that they pass is going to fall flat, basically, more than likely. So, things are not high stake right now they weren't at that moment anyways, in the House of Representatives. And Jamal Bowman was trying to open a door in the House of Representatives and apparently pressed a button to try to open the door and came to find that was a fire alarm that was going to set everything off. And it made people evacuate. And the far right, is using that as like a weapon against people, claiming that he was trying to prevent the vote from taking place, basically trying to force people to blah, 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 whatever. When there's no evidence of any of that. It's completely made up. Like all of it is completely made up. He was just trying to open a door, apparently, as far as I can tell. But they're going to use it to their political ends. That's what he's talking about. If you didn't know,
never seen ever. We have that happening. We have transgender lunacy.
Transgenders, the transgenders.
We have leftists lying, pulling fire alarms, obstructing justice, two-tiered level of justice, attacking a president of the United States, J6 people in prison. In other words, everywhere you look, you see demonic evil. And then you have people like Kevin McCarthy kind of acting like, well, we'll just pass the buck. We're not, it's 1985. Everything's fine.
1985. Did he mean 1984? If he says 1985, that means, and he's referring to 1984, that means has he even read the book? I'm not convinced he's even read it. He doesn't understand what that even means, apparently. All right, let's step back, listen again.
Pass the buck.
He wasn't trying to pass the buck.
We're not, it's 1985. Everything's fine. Everything is not fine. Most people in America understand we need a reset. For the government to shut down would be fantastic. I think that.
No. It would be bad. Like, government shutdown isn't on the table. Government defunding is on the table, right? Isn't this a vote to raise a debt limit? The threat of a federal government shutdown suddenly lifted late Saturday as President Joe Biden signed temporary funding bill to keep agencies open with little time to spare after Congress rushed to approve the bipartisan deal. This is the thing that McCarthy signed that got him removed from office, basically. He extended it to November 17th. The package drops aid to Ukraine, a White House priority opposed by a growing number of Republican lawmakers, thanks to Putin, but increases federal disaster assistance by $16 billion. After chaotic days of turmoil in the House, Speaker Kevin McCarthy abruptly abandoned demands for steep spending cuts from his right flank and instead relied on Democrats to pass the bill at risk of his own job. And then he was removed, of course. Okay, well, maybe it was a shutdown instead of a... I thought this is a debt limit increase for some reason. Shit, maybe, yeah, you know what? This is a government shutdown. They can't agree on a budget. That's my mistake. I thought it was a debt ceiling increase. That doesn't happen again until 2025, I guess. So, anyway, give you a little context. It would wreak absolute havoc on the country, basically, if this happened.
People act like, oh, it's going to be so terrible. The optics are going to be so bad for the Republicans. Good. The Republicans deserve to be ashamed of what passes for conservative leadership. They're not conservatives. Most of them are hacks. Mitch McConnell at the top of the heap. And obviously...
Anybody that's against Donald Trump is a hack, apparently.
What happened to Kevin?
And he's not even, like, against Trump. He's in favor of Trump. It's just insane that these people... God, they need help, for real.
Mitch McConnell at the top of the heap. And obviously, what happened to Kevin McCarthy today, this is a warning to those who think we're just going to pass the buck. They're going to be maniacs, God bless them, like Matt Gaetz, that are going to stand between you and passing the buck. I praise God for where we are. And there are tons of Americans praying and praying and praying. The Lord would guide us through this.
That the Lord would guide us through this. Yeah. Eric Metaxas, as somebody rightly pointed out earlier in my chat here, Eric Metaxas is insane. He's a sociopath. I've heard him say some truly whacked out shit, for real. I don't think he's a true believer. I think Metaxas is a dishonest actor, simply trying to get rich off of this grift. I don't think that of everybody, but I think Metaxas is one of the people that applies to.